All right, welcome back to our Extra AI podcast series. And today, as part of our mini sub-series that we are doing with Mr. Ahmed Munir, uh, architecting the autonomous enterprise, we have done a couple of episodes already about platform engineering versus value. And then we also have done another episode on the uh, revenue leakage and how do you identify that and how do you fix that. Now, today, as part of the third part or the last part of this sub-series, we want to get into the very interesting and very important topic, which everybody is talking about it, AI governance. So welcome on board, Ahmad. I would like to really kick off this this part of the episode. Maybe do you got some, I know before we get into the detailed conversation, what's your take on this? I know there is a whole lot of conversation going on in the context of what do you call governance. So any brief take on that uh, before we get in?
Sure, it's good to be back, Raghu. For anyone joining us for the first time, we recorded a couple of the podcast already. I'm not yet sure whether those are released or not, but let me introduce quickly myself. Ahmad Munir, based out of Dallas, Texas, leading enterprise space at one of the largest telecommunication company in the US here. I have spent nearly about 2 decades helping large enterprises to monetize to modernize their finances and monetize order to cash and revenue. I've lived in the space of where money actually moves
Right.
from a platform engineering perspective, right? So across all those years, one thing has stayed consistent. Technology doesn't create value by itself.
True.
Value comes from decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where, you and I would start building up some conversation along the lines of what is the governance, how the value gets created, and things along those lines, and what it truly means. Um, I think, fairly speaking, the governance of the decision itself is going to be the next era challenge with the
Mm-hmm.
AI, autonomous execution, and stuff like that. Because the governance is one thing, which is more or like, okay, we had probably in the past couple of decades, if you really look into, we have come across automation quite a bit, right? So enterprises are running automation, which is more or like, okay, tell me, is my model trained? Is my model good enough? Is my, the connected world of platform engineering doing the right things? But when it comes to the next era of autonomous execution, where, you may have agents taking an action,
Mm-hmm.
then it's a very fundamentally different idea. And the challenge really is who is going to be responsible and accountable for those decisions and the outcomes for
Right.
which the AI agent would be taking, right? So the next opening statement or the challenge that any enterprise leader would be working at would be, is it the governance or is it the decision outcome we are talking about? So the decision outcome would become the next era of conversation, in my opinion. And your CIOs, CFOs would have to decide: are we going to be accountable and responsible for machine-based, actions?
Mm-hmm.
And if so, what is the level of authority that we would be delegating to the agent,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you think about today's world of enterprise, it's human who perform an action, right? There is
Right.
automation, I get that, the background processes runs, perform so many validations, checks, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, there is a human involved, and human perform the necessary action and take the ownership. That said, the future is, are we
Yes.
introducing the delegation authority in the enterprise, based of which we would say that, my delegation authority, quote and unquote, AI agent is the, the responsible person, right? Of course not, right? So that's where, the governance and all those things does matter. And that's why we would have more platform engineering coming into the picture, into the play. And I know a lot of platforms are working on it to introduce the control plane for enterprises.
Beautiful. I think at that point, I think I would like to let's take a pause at that and then get into much more details into that in our real when we discuss about the real challenges. So what you meant to say here is that let's get into this topic now. Model governance is no longer sufficient or no longer enough, because companies have started building AI governance around these models, the model risk or the data privacy, the explainability and other things. But like you rightly attributed, it's about the decision. The agents that are built on these models, is the decision that I have taken, the business decision that I have taken, is that the right one? And how am I taking that? And how should, so if we go into that aspect, what do you think and how should enterprises define the boundaries between the recommendation, the decision taking, and the execution of that? So that is going to be a little bit challenging, right? Like what are your thoughts there?
It's a really, a great, interesting question for so many reasons, right? So we started off the conversation along the lines of the decision ownership, right? Decision outcome. I think when I think about the framework like that, a very simple framework is decision execution and recommendation. So to start with the recommendation first, because we live in the era of AI and we have seen automation in our enterprises. Recommendation, decision, and execution are three distinct stages, right? A recommendation informs about a decision commitment, right? But it's not taking an action per se, right? It is not taking a decision on your behalf. It's just a recommendation, right?
Right.
And we have seen that in what we call the knowledge graphs, the knowledge economy, right? The humans coming in and acting as an advisor, okay? More or like what I jokingly sometimes, call with my talk with my, attorney friends, they say that the outcome of your case is as good as what you provided me as an input. So in other words, it's always the customer wins or loses. It's not the attorney, right? Although they are, providing you all the necessary, the counseling, they are fighting the case and things along those lines. So if you really step back and think about, what does it truly mean when it comes to the what you ask about the boundaries of where the recommendation, where the decisioning and the execution is happening, at three different stages or distinct stages, is what is the fundamental problem statement here, right? So going back to the simple framework, if I have to make those decisions, I would say if my rules are very much deterministic in nature, I could rely on the patterns and the input that I provided as the business rule, and I could make a safe and sound decision. That is the best use case of an AI agent to use. If for all good reasons, I don't trust either the input or the rules, and it's all hypothetical, then I would prefer to have the recommendations, right? Because at some point in time, you need to have the human intelligence is still taking, the precedence over any machine language built model, right, for the purpose of decision making. So fundamentally, if you really look into any enterprise, what are we trying to do? We are selling something. We are doing the product selling. We are doing the service offering and things along those lines. Those are all tangible in many ways, right? You could have finite number of possibilities. Those are all best use cases for autonomous execution, right? You could do the predictability of your inventory. You could do the predictability of your forecasting of your the sales and things those lines, and you could very safely allow your agent, AI agent, to take the actions and the decisions on your enterprise behalf. What you would like to make sure is the agent that is making the decision on your enterprise behalf, there is a human governance out there that truly understand how the decision is getting made. So if something, let's say, go off the rail, a human person comes in, provide the necessary, the adjustment and the control framework, so as you don't have either the reputation damage or just too many, in my logistics use case, too many inventory built up.
Right. So let's get into a bit more into the regulated industries, right? Like financially sensitive environments. So what kind of risks are we foreseeing when you treat these AI results or AI outputs as just suggestions, when employees or systems may act on them automatically? So because here what is happening is that you might have fixed set of rules, and like you mentioned, like recommendations, decisions, and executions. But in these very sensitive, financially sensitive environments, what are the risks of treating these AI outputs as just suggestions? Any thoughts, and how should employees, or how should management should act on this?
You might have heard, Raghu, a terminology called, very commonly, I'm gonna just add something, automation bias, right? And we all are inclined as an enterprise architects and the leaders in our space. Let's do automation. It's great. But really, the fundamental thing here is, can a human person intervene and make a necessary adjustment, or in other simple terms, can control the output or the outcome, is what's going to define whether it's a safe thing to build around AI agent and things along those lines. So in the case of much more compliance or regulated industries, the leader should not just say that, oh, don't worry about it, we have human in the loop. No, that's not the best possible answer. You got to be able to have a human skill, knowledge, for resources in your enterprise, who could jump into right at that moment in time when the things might be going off the rail, again, by automation bias and a lot of agents. So the simple way for me to think about it, do I have enough capabilities and the skilled resources in my team who could handle that easily? And I was just funny enough talking with a senior business executive today, where I encouraged to use the full autonomous version of order to revenue through SAP BRIM platform. And let me give you the sense of what I'm talking about. We have the background jobs, automation, to extract the data, call it the orders info from different platform and bring it to our billing engine, billing platform, SAP BRIM, right? And based off which we are doing a lot of system validation checks for variance gaps and stuff like that. Fast forward, we are doing the revenue generation through the BRIM platform, right? So we do the invoice generation and whatnot. This whole process in our enterprise is literally, and I'm gonna jokingly say that it's a Tesla version. It's a Tesla version because we have automated. So there is no need today in my enterprise to babysit and watch the platform, do the checks and whatnot, because my platform engineers has built the solution that it automatically recorrects the issues. Okay. If the issue happen in the data extraction, if some process fails, it captures the log. However, it automatically regenerates the process and correct it. Fast forward, where I'm going with that is this is exactly what you want to do in your enterprise when you are talking about autonomous execution or autonomous enterprise or the intelligent enterprise, right? So what SAP is doing, as you know very well, better than me, probably in that space, is SAP is building the AI factory of workers, right? You call it the autonomous execution, and it is putting in the hands of enterprises that go and use your AI factory workers, right? The digital factory workers. Now the question is for any enterprise leader, again, can I control the output and the outcome? If the answer is simply yes, go and use it. If the answer is no, I don't know the outcome, then wait, you probably need to be cautious.
Okay. So I think, so we are moving in this stage from a human assisted automation or a human decision making to AI assisted decision making for autonomous execution. So this is where there are some decisions you have to take first, but I know you have alluded to that saying that there are some decisions you can easily approve or automate first, but some decisions should remain human led or human approved. So if I go in this aspect, yes, I understand that there are some decisions which are very safe to automate, so I go ahead and do that. But there are some decisions should remain or go through human approval or human led or human the process where a human is definitely needed. How should organizations here classify these AI decisions? Do they by risk or reversibility or financial impact or customer impact or productivity or regulatory sensitivity? So there should be some kind of thing, right? I think to classify this, what are your thoughts coming from this aspect? And of course, you have a huge financial background too, right? So how do you see this being handled or should be handled?
I would share some lived experiences. All right. A lot of times we get into the trap of what is technically easy, that's automated, right? Low hanging fruit. We keep calling in our four wall boundaries, right? Hey, this seems like a low hanging fruit. This is, technically easy. We could do that. Let's do that, right? And this is exactly the trap that I would like everyone to be cautious of, right? Especially in the case of the autonomous execution, right? Here is the reason why. You kind of, alluded to very nicely. Should the enterprise leaders really think about the reversibility, meaning that can this decision or the output that has been made by an agent, can it be safely reversed? Because, it is not intended to be or it wasn't expected it to be? If the answer is yes, oh yeah, go ahead, because it's, has a safety wall, right?
Right.
And again, you want to make sure that you categorize and tier it based on the financial impact, right? Is it a low financial impact, or it's a high financial impact, things along those lines. I'm gonna give you a very good analogy that you might probably appreciate it. A lot of times when you are doing the digital payment transfers
Right.
between your friends and stuff like that, and maybe someone who may not have be in your trusted circle, you think twice typically, right? And if it's the low financial dollar value, then you say that, okay, I'm gonna try that, right? And exactly this is how the autonomous enterprises would need to think about their four-wall boundaries. When there is an urge or an excitement to run it, digitally with AI fact, the AI workers and whatnot, it really needs to be classified in, three big pillars, in my opinion. Your financial impact pillar, your reversibility pillar, and your customer experience pillar, right? Because a lot of times your customer experience could also be causing you the dollar impact, because you don't want to create a situation where a bad customer experience would take away your existing customers from your business, or have the low traffic coming into your business because your autonomous execution did not produce the intended output and the result. So this is an act of what you call the creating more like a simulated environment in your own business enterprises, right? To talk about it, to understand what are the impacts and stuff like that.
So let me so this is more like we are getting into we are saying that not as a slogan, but it is more like a control architecture. So that is how we are designing trust that gets into this autonomous execution. But here, this is where now we are moving into an era of AI agents and agentic execution, which we call autonomous execution. They start acting across workflows, across business processes. What kind of audit trail should be captured? I know you come from this financial business background, so I'm trying to bring this question or pin this question about what kind of audit trail should be captured here, so that we know that the decision, the governance of the decision happened and you're making the right choices.
It's a really great question. It's very, very important from audit traceability perspective and the transparency perspective, right? So I want to create some sort of a very simple rule book or the framework or the simple questions. And by definition, it's not the, only rule book that you could create, right, in your enterprise. You could have different sorts of criteria. The rule book, I would say, that is consist of maybe 3 or 4 questions. Why it happened? Can you answer the why piece? And also be able to say that, is it we expected it to happen? What happened is also equally important, because it's more like the understanding why happened, what policy got invoked, what rules were out there due to which this output has, produced. If you can answer all those questions, then the auditability, the traceability and transparency is certainly out there. It's not like that, you would come to an enterprise architect or a leader or a CFO in your company and hear an answer, oh, we don't know that it's an AI agent that produces the result. again, these are some of the key fundamental thoughtful questions that you would like to first understand before it happened. Meaning that you start introducing the agents, you need to be able to understand why, what, how, and what were the policy rules or the business rules you introduced.
Right, right. So let's get into this aspect right now. I want to get into a bit more into how CIOs and CFOs should think about this accountability or controls and governance aspects. So why, I know we've discussed about how this different aspects of this. So we are coming to a kind of a consensus that this AI decision governance should be a joint CIO and a CFO conversation rather than only a technology or a compliance conversation, right? So do you have because this is where what's happening is that the controls should exist. These kind of controls should exist even before a machine made or an AI assistant decision is executed, right? So can you talk a bit about that? Can you talk?
I think you are asking a very, very interesting question, right? Where the accountability lies.
Yeah.
Right. When we are talking about, AI generated outcomes, right? And if you really think about just a traditional any enterprise, typically the CFOs or the business owns the financial outcomes, right? And the IT owns the automation per se. Now, in the era of AI agentic world, you know, it's a hybrid. It's a mix of both,
Right.
Because an agent would ultimately be taking an action, right? And if an agent is making a decision or an action, it is just not an AI. It is not just an IT who is solely responsible for that agent, right? Because it's taking an action. It is a combination of the financial ownership plus the IT ownership, right? So the governing body in future has to be the IT plus the business together, and they have a seat on the table and a very much, I would say, clarity around what we talk about, why it happened, how it happened, what were the rules or the policy guidelines we provided to this agent, due to which it is happening. As far as there is a clarity and the joint ownership, I don't see any reason not to move forward with a complete autonomous execution, because the autonomous execution is going to help the businesses to scale, grow, and be very fast in serving their customers as a result, right? And of course, it could allow you to have more revenue generation or more better customer experiences. So two things that I would like your audience to understand and have the takeaway. Can you understand your model output and outcome? If the answer is yes, it's better to go with autonomous. In addition to that, can you reverse it? Meaning that if the decision or the output is generated by an agent, can you also reverse it? If the answer is yes, the combination of both questions, if the answer is yes, it is a safe bet to go for an autonomous execution, because you have the reversibility out there, you have a control framework out there, and the business and the IT together is taking the ownership.
So yeah, beautiful. I like the way how you explain, like if you know what kind of an outcome you are expecting and you have delivered that, this is good. If you know how you can reverse this decision and if you can control that, this is good. But there would still be some accountability related aspects how should enterprises define this overall accountability? Because here decisions might involve multiple actors. It's not just the model, it's not just the agent, it's not just the workflow, it's not just a platform. Again, there is a human approver and also with a business owner. So where should that accountability lie? I know we all tend to go towards the human-led accountability, but how do you arrive to that? Can you put some perspectives on that?
I think it's probably a debate in the thought leadership even, right? So the debate is really, can you delegate an accountability to a machine output, right? Because again, currently the way we all operate, the decision accountability lies to a human.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a very intelligent question in terms of now we are going to be more, autonomous. The models, the actors, the actions are being taken by the machine. It's across platforms, cross domain actions. Where does the accountability would lie, right? And I think that's fundamentally still a debate and going to be a debate for quite some time, that are we entering into an era where we all would start embracing that the delegation of authority metrics is going to be, in addition to a human, your agent, so more like a metrics hybrid organization.
Right.
Human, like, if you go back to your own live experiences, it used to be a hierarchical organizations, very much IT separately working, business separately working. Yes, there was collaboration, but never have a metrics environment where, like, for example, me in my enterprise, I work more closely with the business stakeholders, the business VP, CFO level, C-suite executives, than to whom I'm reporting to, which is IT organization,
Right.
IT leadership, right? So my day to day is fundamentally has two aspects, right? The functional aspect, which is the business, and then your reporting on layer, right? The IT organization. So the future really could go into the direction of having the agents VP. I know I'm talking a little bit,
No, I think you are coming to
futuristic.
something, something futuristic. It can, yeah. There are a lot of conversations
Right,
happening in that round too. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Agents manager, something like that.
Mm.
Okay. Who is the delegate of those agents? The agents are making the decisions. And really, this is a very good time for enterprise leaders to talk about it, right? Because an agent in SAP could be taking an action in, let's say, Microsoft platform, let's say in a Snowflake platform, let's say in a, Databricks platform. The agents could possibly crossing over the boundaries from
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
own, environment. And that is where, the delegation of authority and the delegation of metrics could come into the picture, where people would have to decide, okay, what is the right level of the delegation of authority?
Right, right. There will be various levels of authority delegation here, like you alluded to. Maybe the first level and second level delegation might happen within the agents, but then when we get to a particular threshold point, that is when the human might enter. So I want to tie this all into our enterprise architecture world, right? So now, what role should, I know we are coming to a standpoint, we're coming to a closing, coming to a end of this conversation, this nice little series. I want to tie this governance aspect and what role should enterprise architecture play in creating these decision maps or control points or escalation paths and auditability and so on and so forth, because this is going to be important, right? Like you have very complex hybrid landscapes out there with different things, and you don't even know where and how these agents are coming from, which landscape, which like we were already discussing, it might be an agent from Microsoft or a Snowflake or something like that. So what kind of role enterprise architecture or enterprise architect should play here?
So my public position on that one is when I go to speaking and then write those things. The future of enterprise architect is not the traditional approval based, which we all are living into. You have the decisions and the enterprise architects approve it, right, and you move on. The future of enterprise architect, that the way I see it, is going to be the guardrail based. You act as you define the guardrails for your organization. What are the fences? You're not acting as the quote and unquote the toll booth, for example, where you would say that, hey, if I don't approve it, you can't necessarily, create the solution or build the solutions. In the age of agentic AI, your enterprise leaders has to adopt, embrace, and evolve. And that's my public position at this point in time, is we would be acting as more like the guardrails and fencing, and we would be guiding the teams, the business teams, and the developers, and many others, right? Okay, what is the right level of threshold based on which you could, safely create an agent that could take an action to run autonomously? And here are the reasons why: because we think that there is a reversibility out there. There is a low tier financial impact. There is probably no bad customer experience. And this is why, we think, or we suggest, or, we collectively, irrespective of your, the titles and influence in the enterprise, you would say that, okay, these are my guardrails. So really, where I'm going with that is, the guardrails is the new, the thing that we all would be learning and be talking more. So.
Yes. So we keep hearing a lot about guardrails, based governance, guardrails, and I think you have also publicly alluded in a lot of these conversations, like how enterprise architecture and enterprise architects will move or should move from an approval-based governance to a guardrails-based governance. So let me come to this point. I think any of our XTraw AI conversations will not end without a XTraw AI question, or the $1 million question I ask, because this is one thing I keep, I try to get the different aspect of that. So Ahmed, I think if an enterprise wants to scale AI agents across finance or across sales, and of course, across different business processes, we all know that there are different things going on. What are those first governance foundations they must put in place before autonomy can take over or expand? So that would be, what would be the first governance foundations?
I know that we all are getting hyped with the word of agents. And my answer might sound like a little bit counterintuitive. But I would say is start with the decisions first, and really value those things. What are the decisions that you want to take based off the agent, right? Understand that better. Create the full metrics and the model around it, right? Because you might be surprised, Raghu, that, and then I'm not saying that you don't know that, but the token economy, the agent economy is at this point in time quite expensive as well, right? So the surprise or the shock price could come in maybe after a few months, maybe after a year, where you would realize, or the enterprises would realize that, oh, this agentic economy is expensive than the human economy, the knowledge workers that we have. So really where I'm going with that is start with the decision. First, understand what decision you want to make and go from there. But here is my 6 foundations. Okay. Start with the decision inventory. You cannot govern unless you have the understanding of the decision inventory, what decisions you are making. Is it financial decision? Is it just, some sort of a non-financial decision, things along those lines? And classify your decision, classify in the sense of the customer impact. We talked about, the reversibility. We talked about compliance and the regulatory things, right? So classify your decision as well, right? Name the accountable owners, right? Because the polite way of no accountability is the distributed accountability, right?
Right.
So name the accountability in your enterprises. Who is the person or the governing body who is going to be accountable for those things, right? Create some sort of escalation path in your enterprise, right? Think about the control architecture, the guardrail, I talk about it, right? Create that in your enterprise intentionally. Have the audit trail built in from day one, because again, if you can't answer the questions, why it happened, what happened, how it happened, what were the policy rules, you're going to put yourself into a situation where the audit traceability become more expensive, right? And the last thing is the recovery. Can you undo that? What the agent is doing, or what the machine is producing, an output or an outcome, can you recover from that? If all those 5, 6, the pillars and the fundamentals are taken care of, I think it's going to be a very exciting time for all of us to experience the autonomous execution by an agent, because our lives would become more digitally assisted and enabled, right? Today, I'm enjoying a lot of my conversation with AI, the chat GPTs, where I'm asking, some questions about my next, where I want to go to, what's out there, and things along those lines. And I'm gonna just, in a lighter mode, say that if England wins the FIFA World Cup, probably because I asked this question from my GPT, who's gonna win it. So the prediction by the GPT is England is gonna win the World Cup, and if it truly wins it, I'm gonna maybe value the AI more than what I am believing right now.
Right. That's a great way of putting it. I know we are doing this conversation, or at least recording this, the day after the first World Cup game happened for FIFA, right? I think yesterday is June 11th and June 12th today. And of course, another significance is that today the SpaceX stock went public. And of course, there are a lot of questions and a lot of things going on. People asking how this is going to go, because again, we will only see a lot more conversations, and in the context of AI and agents, people going over and across on this. So like you mentioned, I think the guardrails based governance is very important when we talk about the decisions and the outcomes and how we tie it back into this reversible features and other things. Great having this conversation with you. And Ahmed, really loved the mini series that we have done with you.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's been truly a pleasure. First knowing you in person, Raghu, we met a few times, and I totally enjoyed my conversation and the podcast sessions. I hope that, in future we would do more. I'm looking forward to, following your YouTube channel, the podcast that you are doing. You are doing for the community. Thank you for doing that. Do more. I'm really excited to partner with you in future, as well as listen some other industry thought leaders that you bring to your podcast. So thank you again. It's been lovely coordinating and collaborating with you.
Yeah, thanks for your time. I know in a world of unknowns, a lot of unknowns gonna happening. I think it's great to connect and learn from do this mutual learning and mutual understanding. Thanks for your time again.
All right, Raghu. Take care. Have a good weekend.
Who governs the decision when AI starts to act? Thank you, Ahmed, for joining us on XTraw AI and for closing out this special series, Architecting the Autonomous Enterprise, with such an important conversation on AI and decision governance. This episode highlighted why model governance alone is no longer enough. As enterprises move from AI-assisted recommendations to autonomous execution, leaders must think deeply about accountability, controls, auditability, and trust. To our audience, thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned for more XTraw AI conversations on AI and the future of intelligent businesses. This is Raghu Banda, and until next time, let's keep extracting the raw AI conversations. Stay tuned, stay curious, and happy predicting the future with XTraw AI.